Mm.
What is up, y'all? Welcome back to the Angry Nation podcast. What's up, everybody? As you can tell, we're missing T tonight, but we've got the always lovely Pete Robert Tucci, my good friend, sitting in his spot this evening. And Sue looks like he's on the lam running somewhere. And of course, Donnie Dunn's in the house. What is up, y'all?
What's up?
It's going on. So, did you guys hear Libya's about to have another civil war?
You sure?
Yeah, Libya. They just drew up sides, and they're fixing to go at it again. Wagner's back in one side, and this ought to be fun to watch again.
It's just a tinderbox, man. It's all a tinderbox over there.
Yeah,
just waiting for that little spark. Yeah.
Well, and there's somebody walking around with a road flare at the moment. You look watching Iran and all the shit within today. So Iran's getting ready to attack Israel. Iran is hacking Trump's campaign and other campaigns, I guess, is what they say. But then Iran's central bank was hacked today. Did you guys catch that? They got caught in a pretty severe cyber attack.
Little payback, I'm sure.
Yeah. Well, it was the cyber tech stuff's interesting, especially after last night when was it last night that Trump was on, or was it the day before? Whenever Trump and Elon were talking, the DDoS attack that the lefties and who knows who else attempted against X. I thought that was hilarious. That shows you how afraid of ideas they are. Yeah. And there's really? Ma in the house. What up, Ma? And his campaign headquarters in Loudoun County was burglarized. So it's just a weird time in general. Everywhere you look right now, there's problems. The stuff with Iran and Israel is going to get hotter. I think Hezbollah is getting ready for war. So it looks like there's a pretty sure bet that conflict is going to broaden dramatically over there.
Mm-hmm. Well, and did you see? You mentioned the guy that broke into the Trump campaign headquarters. Do you see the rap sheet on that guy?
Yeah,
it has Antifa written all over him. I mean,
well, today in Portland, I forget the chick's name. Azar, I think's her last name. She's a Rose City Antifa member and always journalist. She's a journalist, always at their events as that, but brings weapons and then posts all their propaganda. She was just convicted today in Portland on felony charges. So, we're kind of seeing the narrative turn on the left just a little bit there, starting to see a little pushback. And it's weird when you look at how we might be starting to turn the corner on that crap here in this country. And then you look at the UK and what's happening over there right now. And they just put a guy in prison today for posting a picture of Muslims storming the streets of some English city with weapons. And all he said was coming to a city near you. And they just put him in prison today over that.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. And that, a lot of that is led obviously clearly to the European migration that came from all these Middle Eastern countries, and they just let them in.
Yep.
They're paying the
you
price
let in.
now.
Yeah, you allow a people to immigrate to your country who do not want to assimilate, but yet want to force their way of life upon you. That's not how immigration is supposed to work. If I wanted to be a Muslim, I could move to a Muslim country and be one. I don't need to make it, where I make it here. I'm trying to say, sorry.
Mm-hmm.
I'm reading comments and trying to talk at the same time, and I can't even chew gum and walk at the same time. But so Sue, you're over in Asheville. How's Asheville today after the Trump rally, man? What's going on over there?
I had two meetings to go to. One for Robin Sage. Shout out to all my people at Tactical Rifleman. Sorry we had to cancel the Patreon course. It's just money's tight all over. Everybody's nervous. But I went to a meeting for the Robin Sage course that's coming up this month, and then Charlie Williams and I had dinner. But I really wanted to go to that Trump rally in Asheville, and now I'm stuck in the parking lot waiting for all the traffic to clear out of Asheville, because I thought it wouldn't be that big, because Asheville is a libtard town. I mean, it's basically retired hippies and yuppies live there. But I guess it was busting out the seams with people that wanted to get in there. So right now the traffic is horrible, and you can't get through Asheville. So I'm coming to you live as an Uber driver, and and what's those guys that drive your meals to your house for you?
DoorDash.
DoorDash, yeah.
DoorDash,
I was going to be a DoorDash driver, but you'd only get like half portions, because I would eat half your meal before I got to your house.
Yeah, interesting to see the turnout in Asheville, because it's always been a bit of a left-leaning place, but I haven't been up to Asheville in several years at this point, but I've heard that it's gotten really bad up there as far as the lefty kind of shit goes.
Yeah.
So it's good. I like that he's jumping right into like their hotbeds too. Like Asheville. I think he should do one in Portland.
Yeah. Well, and I think it makes a lot of the people, especially where I live about 45 miles west of Asheville, by Cherokee, North Carolina, and I don't think a lot of people, the people that didn't move down to Florida for their retirement came to the Appalachians. And they tried to turn it all into HOA golf courses type thing. And after today, I think they're pretty surprised that the people of the Smoky Mountains, they want to keep it traditional, raise families, have kids, go to church. They don't want that crap coming up here and taking over in the mountains, in the Smoky Mountains anyway. So it's good to see a little sanctuary like Asheville get invaded by conservatives. Yeah.
And now, don't you guys call them halfbacks? Isn't that the Yankees that went to Florida, found it too hot, and moved halfway back? Isn't that what they're halfbacks?
That's exactly right.
Mass exodus of them. 10 years. Remember 10, 12 years ago, Chris? Everybody was moving to North Carolina.
Yeah, everybody's leaving this state, and that's why North Georgia and North Carolina really dislikes Florida license plates. I can tell you that from personal experience. They're really not fans of it. And since we're talking about Trump, Pete, you mentioned that thing. I saw that article earlier too, that opinion piece that Trump could potentially be sentenced to prison time on the 18th. It was just that it was an opinion piece. I don't think they're going to be stupid enough to actually do that. The fact that whole hush money case thing is even going on is ludicrous. Even what if he paid her? She signed an NDA, which she broke, and she has to pay him now as a result of that, which she's not doing, and no one's talking about that. And if he wants to pay her to sign an NDA, he can do that. There's nothing illegal there. There's nothing illegal about that. I don't care what they did together. I really don't give a shit. She signed an NDA. She broke it, and she lost that in court. Now she owes him. Talking about Stormy Daniels, for those that don't know exactly. But that's what the case is about up in New York. They're trying to pin him with, I don't even know. They can't articulate what the actual crime is. They just keep saying crimes. So I don't know how the case is even still going. There's no way that it'll stand up to scrutiny by the Supreme Court if it makes it that far. But
I could always add Stormy Daniels to my list. I've got a whole list of ex-wives trying to sue me for service damage. So
service damage. Stu's always on the lookout for his next ex-wife. Actually, no, he's got Robbie now and got some. So that's what took to him. So,
God bless her. Yeah,
she is a saint of a woman. I will give you that.
Well, lucky for me, her CNI dog died, so she doesn't realize who she's stuck with.
Patrick, I see your post. I'm looking on Twitter right now to see what you sent real quick because someone sent something. Pete, what are you tracking right now as far as goings on? We'll kind of go around the horn here and make sure we cover all the points.
Yeah, so of course we talked about Israel already. We're just everyone's waiting in bated breath to see what Iran is actually going to do. And the newly elected president is telling the Ayatollah, "Listen, you better back the hell off because I don't think you want to start with what you're anticipating is going to. Well, the way you anticipate it's going to happen is not going to be the way it's going to happen."
Nope.
And I think with this administration right now looking to save face during the last few months of President Cauliflower, that I think he might do something stupid and try to save face for the Kamala campaign. So I don't think Iran wants to step on any toes at this moment, but you never know. They're driven by an ideology that I find hard to understand.
Indeed. They're batshit fucking crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, it's like a case of collective global and mental disorder, insanity. I don't know what you want to call it, because it's not just the U.S. where weird shit's going on like this. It's literally everywhere. I know with the focus on Britain and the Middle East right now, a lot of people aren't paying attention. Like Brazil's having some pretty serious problems, and China. I don't think people realize the magnitude of trouble that China's in. They're still being flooded daily. I mean, epic floods. Like some, not even in recorded time, have floods like this occurred. And then Xi's disappeared. You're not seeing Xi Jinping anymore. Chinese newspapers used to have his face on the front page of the paper every single day and something about him. And that's not even the case at the moment. So there's actually talk in the China circles of, think tanks and people like that there may be a soft coup even at play in China right now because their economy's in such bad trouble. The young people, that one child policy that China had for so long is really biting in the ass at the moment. And the current young generation is sort of giving up. They're like, there's no hope. There's 5 and 6 month back pay and salaries not being paid, which has bled over to the civil service sector, and now the military not being paid. And and manufacturing is fleeing China. HP's pulling out. Siemens is pulled out. Foxconn pulled out. Everybody's pulling manufacturing out of China. And there's something like $30 trillion in wealth has left China in the last year, roughly. That being rich Chinese bailing out and getting out while they can, and corporations leaving and taking their trouble elsewhere.
Well, what do you attribute that to? Do you attribute it to them foreshadowing a Trump re-election, or what do you think? Do you think those companies are trying to save face with Trump and bring some of that manufacturing back to our neck of the woods?
No, because they're moving it to places like Vietnam and Malaysia and Indonesia and shit like that. They're just getting out of China because, number one, the country's falling apart. We've always joked about stuff being made in China being substandard, but it's not really a joke. I mean, they have bridges collapsing, buildings falling down all the time. Like literally, I watched a video earlier today. It was about a brand new home, and this guy was inspecting it, and he just tapped the roof or the ceiling with a broom, and it started falling down. It was plastered and like a concrete kind of a mix that didn't adhere to the substrate. It was just falling down. And he went over to the windowsill and tapped it, and it came apart. So he had a building inspector come in, and they use styrofoam BBs in their concrete as a filler. And they had put so much of it in there that it would just crumble, but with your bare hand. You could just grab the dry concrete and break it.
And their rice. You do that to rice.
Gosh.
Yeah, so, and they're using bamboo in place of rebar in roads, buildings, and everything else.
I think a lot of these
tofu
companies
construction.
are probably pulling out. Right there. These companies are probably pulling out because they're nervous. If we do go to war with China, which looks like a probability more than an impossibility, I think they're worried about their companies going out of business, not being able to get their products or supplies or inventory. That could be another caveat for that.
It very well could be. I know that financially their real estate market collapsed, and 30% of the Chinese GDP was based on real estate. I don't know if anybody realizes that, but 30% of their GDP is based on that.
like you mentioned last week too, Chris. If the Chinese economy collapses, it's going to have worldwide ramifications because the manufacturing. So there's so much manufacturing in that country that there's going to be basically a void everywhere on each continent of products, especially the lower grade products that people come to expect and easy to get. They aren't going to be available at all anymore because nobody's producing them at home anymore.
Yeah, very true. And maybe it'll be a spark to get manufacturing, re-going in a lot of these places where it's been moved from. It's just something worth watching. Keeping an eye on China, I think, is important right now, especially because the focus is always elsewhere at the moment.
Right.
Yep.
So
well, and then
what about you?
Yeah, just kind of closer to home on our southern border there. Everybody. I just want to warn people that the Mexican government is not your friend. They don't really care about the American people or the American way of life. I mean, what they've done is they've exposed themselves. I don't know how many of you guys watched or saw the article on they want to get Joaquin Guzman or El Chapo's son extradited back to Mexico to try him for treason for bringing El Mayo back to the United States and turning him over to the DA in El Paso a few weeks ago. Anybody catch that article?
Mm-hmm.
Yep, saw that.
They want to try him for treason, which is basically what they did to the doctor who kept Kiki alive from the DA when the cartels killed the DEA agent a couple decades ago. That really shows you who the Mexican government works for. The Mexican government works for the cartels. And let's not forget that, especially in this next administration. If we wanted to shut down Mexico right now, we would just say no more wire transfers back to Mexico, and half of their economy would be shut down tomorrow. If we would just stop all wire transfers, all the illegals shipping back money to the, because all those cartels and everything, they want all those illegals that are here and some people who've already made citizens, and that's my next subject. They ship that money home. They live in 3 or 4 or 5 families in a single family unit, and they pack them in there. And all those guys every Friday after payday, they go to Western Union and ship that money home to either their cartels or to their families, right?
Sure.
And the Mexican government also has the cartels telling them what to do and keeping all that fentanyl, all that crystal meth, all the cocaine coming through that porous border of ours. Which brings me to the next subject. I only heard about it today on the national news, but I've been kind of tracking it for more than 10 days now. The Biden administration is on a fast track to nationalize or give citizenship to at least 3 million of these illegals before November. What does that tell you? 3 million of these illegal aliens getting citizenship. Now, for me, if I was somebody coming from France or from Colombia or Honduras, legally, the legal immigration system, that just undermines the whole thing. Because those guys take 6 and 8 years to get citizenship into the United States. And now you got these guys who broke the law coming across the southern border, getting fast-tracked into getting citizenship, all because the Democrats want to get more votes before November. It's crazy.
Yep.
Absolutely crazy.
Yeah, and I heard Kamala. They came up today that said she's saying as part of her platform, it's amnesty for illegals and give them the right to vote. That was the first thing she said. They're going to give amnesty and give them the right to vote. Which no, the Constitution pretty well lays out who can and can't. And if you're not a citizen of this country, you shouldn't be allowed to vote in any election anywhere. I don't care if it's for an HOA. You shouldn't be allowed to vote. You're not a citizen. And that may sound like an asshole point, but if you want to have a vested interest in the country, become a citizen.
Well, and you're right, Chris, and it's even more devious than we realize because if you take it just back to the census, okay, these illegal aliens are counted on the census. So that gives additional seats to traditionally blue spots within the House and Congress. So it's devious and it's a well thought out strategy. And we get hung up on the fact that look, they shouldn't be allowed to vote. That's a no brainer. But they're counted in the census also, which is even more devious in my opinion.
Yeah, gerrymanders all the districts. You're exactly right,
Yep.
Pete. Yep.
Absolutely right. Yep. And see they know that that's the only way they can win. They know that the population here is not going to stand for it, and the shit that they want has been roundly rejected. Except in a few places. And look at California, New York. We can look at the state of New York's crime that's costing about $5 billion a year for the immigrant problem in New York City. Well, sanctuary city and all that shit. Deal with it. And the other thing too is with Kamala and with Harris here is, saying she'll sign an executive order to ban AR-15s, and everybody kind of gets their tail on a twist when they hear shit like that. But you guys got to remember, they can't do that. You can't rule by fiat in this country, and that's what that is. It takes legislation, not the whim of whoever happens to be sitting in office. They can't sign an executive order and ban AR-15s. It's again, they can't accomplish what they want inside of the structure. So they're of the structure of our government, which was formed pretty well because it's held up this long, and it's keeping them from pulling off what they want. So that tells us that it actually does work if it's allowed to. But they're screwing with the justice system so much. We have a two-tiered system in this country, just like the UK has only now realized they have. It's funny because in the Portland trial for the Antifa girl, they brought up January 6th as their defense. They said that her actions that day were justified because it was a self-defense because of what happened on January 6th. I mean, think of a lawyer going into a courtroom in the opposite side of the country, trying to toss something like that out there and think that that's a legitimate defense to you pepper spraying people and hitting them in a park.
Right.
But that's how the left thinks. That anything that, if it's fighting fascism, and their definition of fascism is anything not them, then everything is justifiable. And we have to remember that that's the mindset that we're dealing with. We're not dealing with sane and rational people.
You're exactly right. Yeah. That reminds me of the Hunter Biden trial over lying on his 4473 and, not admitting that he was a drug addict. Well, their defense was, well, he still has a right to the Second Amendment. He has a right to own firearms. And I was like, that's exactly what his whole family is trying to take away from the rest of us, is that Second Amendment. Remember his father said, hey, the Second Amendment isn't written in stone. I was like, no, It's written in the Constitution, you idiot.
Yeah. Well, and today or yesterday, now there's information coming out. Hunter did ask for help with Burisma when Biden was vice president. Oh, now those facts come out. That was all conspiracy, wackadoodle stuff when it was brought up at the time. But now they're going, oh, yeah, they really did that. It don't matter now.
Well, and that's the dumbest thing about all of that is that we have him on tape bragging about how he threatened to withhold money from Ukraine if they didn't get rid of the lawyer that was prosecuting her, that was looking into Burisma. And they got rid of the lawyer the next day.
Yep. And Biden in the same thing, bragging about that. He's like, you know what they did? They fired that son of a bitch.
That's what I mean.
And then they tried to impeach Trump, claiming he did the same thing. It was withholding aid, the exact same thing that they tried to impeach him. And that that shows the ridiculous level of banana republic that we have achieved. And we're all just sitting here. We're sitting here talking about it. Nobody's doing shit. Nobody's in the streets. It really makes me wonder, what's it going to take to get the American people fed up? And like I've always said, I think it's until their soft lives are unlivable anymore in the manner that they wish to live them, then they'll get mad.
No, they're not far off. They're not far off. So,
Yeah.
but I've always said,
I mean,
about liberalism, and I get hate mail all the time. It's a mental illness. The way they conduct themselves, liberalism is a mental illness. There's something wrong with these people. The wiring is not right in their head. So I take heat for that all the time, but I don't give a shit. It's what I believe.
Yeah, I agree. It is a mental illness. Yeah, Richie, there you go. The light's going. I'll do it.
I would call it more of a lifestyle, not a mental illness. It's like, and you guys have seen this a lot in Florida, as well as I'm starting to see it up here. Is the I call it the HOA mentality. You know, the homeowners association, where you have a good neighbor as long as, and that neighbor will be a good neighbor as long as you do what they say. You know,
right.
Don't violate this. Don't color outside the lines, and don't do with your property what you want to do with it, because we have a say in how you live, you know. And it's a HOA mentality. I can't stand an HOA. You know, an HOA shouldn't ever be legal in this country, because it just violates the Constitution. You know, I have a right to own my private property. I have a right to my own effects, and I can do what I want with my property. You know, but
It should be that way, and that's why property tax should be a high crime in this country too. But yet we all sit here and pay it every year to some damn body. You know, you don't have the right to own property unless you pay the government a fee for it every year. Then you can own property.
But
Pete,
have you guys ever noticed that these liberals and these guys that have this illness, they're bitter. I wouldn't want to live like that. They're bitter about everything. It doesn't matter what the subject of the argument is. They're the most bitter, hateful people I've ever seen. They can't laugh. They can't make a joke of themselves. They can't laugh at themselves, and they just criticize everybody around them. You know,
which is interesting. Which is interesting for the most all-inclusive party, right? I mean, there's clearly not. They're all-inclusive, like you said, Chris. As long as you think their way and do what they want you to do.
Right.
Yep.
Oh, they hate
as long as you're carrying the banner, as long as you're carrying the banner and carrying the party water, then you're infallible, and any wrongs you've ever committed against anybody is okay, as long as they can paint it in the light of resistance. Is what they always like to say. But I've got a feeling that when the conflict starts, it's not going to be pretty.
No, it's 5 decades of brainwashing, combined with a very, at first covert, now overt attack on the family structure, all the things that we grew up believing in, mother, father, family, friendship, fellowship, religion. It's just been an assault on it. And they've really taken these disenfranchised people, because that's what they are, and given them an out, saying nothing's your fault. It's somebody else's fault. They built villains out of all the pillars that made us great. And that's what you get. It's a brilliant plan. Whoever's behind the scenes pulling the strings doing it knows what they're doing, because that's what it is. And, brainwashed people aren't exactly easy to flip back. So, I mean, that's what we're facing, and it's crazy.
Hey, Sammy Carlisle, you can look me up on Facebook and shoot me a message, man. We can talk that way off of here instead of blasting all this stuff. So yeah, just hit me on Facebook. Look me up on Facebook, shoot me a message, and I'll get you there.
Well, I like Donnie's costume though. He can really move amongst both crowds when he wears that kilt. He can either be at the St. Patrick's Day parade, or he can be transitioning. So
it's a garment
Good
of
job,
ancient
Donnie.
Celtic
Good
warriors.
job, Donnie.
Garment
Yeah,
of ancient
but
Celtic warriors.
Not when you buy it at Forever 21. It's not. Not when you buy it at Forever 21. It's not.
Oh, whatever, dude. I didn't even know what that was, so I had to look it up after Mel said. I'm like, what was that? Thanks, man. Wearing that fucking shirt, you're going to talk to me.
This is the 511 shirt with peccaries on it and the desert. So, yeah, I will. Slick.
Fucking homo.
Okay.
Oh, you're just mad because you've been having to deal with liberals all day.
You know what I'm mad at is why these Jews and Arabs can't come together and settle their differences in a Christian-like manner. Bless their hearts.
Christian-like manner.
That's a whorehouse in Texas. That's mine ever.
Yeah. These Jews and Arabs.
I mean, that's
Christian-like
scary
manner.
shit right now, dude, because,
Yeah.
I think Iran's probably stepping lightly because they know what's coming. They know what Israel can do. They have tons of drones and missiles that are relatively ineffective. I mean, they can definitely do some damage. The proxies can, but the end result, and they know it, is their destruction. If they want to whip out the big stick and show what they got, they're going to get smacked down, and they know it. I mean, Israel's assassinating people in their capital. I mean, precisely, and they're gonna go make war on them. So, but the potential does exist because they have to save face, and if this cuts loose, I don't know if it can be contained. I mean, if you think about it.
Yeah, well, and like Richie right here just said, we keep sending assets that direction, carrier groups and shit. It won't be good for them if they do that. And plus the left, they've been dying for a war with Iran. They want one real bad.
Well, the weird thing is they're playing both sides of the fence. Did you see? I saw a article today in the Jerusalem Post that says the U.S. allegedly presented Tehran with a list of the Mossad agents that were involved in that assassination.
Well, all right. Let's take that apart for a minute. Number one, do you think the Mossad tells us who their fucking agents are? I mean, think about this.
No, of course not.
I read a book by a former Mossad agent years ago, and I wish I could remember the title of it. I don't remember it, but he had a line in that book that stuck in my head. And I'm pro-Israel. I really am. I'm not against them in the least bit. But he goes that when I sit down with my CIA counterpart at a table, he is sitting with his friends, but I am not sitting with mine. And that literally is the way they think. I mean, and they don't trust America all the way, and they shouldn't. So the odds of us knowing the exact names of who was involved in that operation is so fucking remote that that's a laughable thing to even claim. Yeah, Scout North Survival. I agree. Vineland is calling. Wish I could go back. I just ain't got time right now. It's laughable. So I think that's just a misinformation campaign, which these days everything we fucking hear is a misinformation campaign. Like Kamala buying all these ads that are supposed to look like articles that are at the top of all Google searches and everything that come up, but they look like ads. They look like articles, but they're ads. It's just retarded.
Well, she did come up with the idea to not tax tips. That was really brilliant of her. But wait,
that was a shrewd move. That was funny because today Trump was like, "Yeah, next week Harris says she's going to come out with her plan for the economy." He's like, "But she's going to wait till after I release mine." So she can copy it.
Yeah.
And still no press conference from her. How many days has it been since she was the presumptive nominee, and no press conference, no face-to-face questioning?
Would you put her out?
No.
People?
No, I wouldn't either. But the American people should understand why there's no press conference.
The United States of America. This is the best we can produce to lead our country.
Well, I on my traveling today, I listened. I can't remember who the guest was on Will. I think maybe it was Will Cow that came up with this. He pointed out that Kamala was, she ran for president in the Democratic primaries back in 2020, and when she first announced that she was going to be the president or run for president, she automatically got a Cinderella bump in the polls to 15%. And she stayed at 15% until what? Until she opened her mouth and started talking.
Absolutely.
Once she started talking, she went from 15% down to 2%. She was the first candidate in the Democratic primary that had to drop out because nobody would back her. So,
and those sound bits are biting her in the ass right now.
Yeah, and that's why she's not talking. That's why she's not holding press conferences. because everybody knows that as soon as she starts talking, her popularity is going to go down very fast.
Yeah, they were asking about today about you going to do a press conference, and whoever the guy was that was answering on her behalf was like, we will continue to engage with voters. I love how you ask these people questions and they don't answer them. They do it in front of Congress and the Senate. They do it with the media. They never answer the question asked to them. It's just bizarre. So there's one for you guys. Honor Will's asking.
Good point. Like her question on the border. Is the border secure? Why haven't you gone down to the border? And she goes, well, I've never been to Europe either. And I'm like, well, why are you trying to be president of the United States either? Because you have no foreign policy.
Right. Yeah, none whatsoever. Yeah. And what does that have to do with shit? She is so ignorant. It's laughable, and that's all she can do. That laugh she does, that's when she's, I got nothing. That's her, I got nothing, Yeah.
Well, it's like
and just remember, there is a significance to the passage of time. Just remember that. Just
like you said, she will do everything she can to avoid answering the question.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. Well, they all do that. I think they're trained in that. I think they go to school for it. Russ says that people want her to have the opportunity to do an interview with Elon on X. She ain't gonna do that either. No. You see Will's comment up there. I'm gonna read it for Sue because I know he's got his phone. It says, here's the question. If Trump wins, how long before things improve? If Kamala wins, do you think we will have kinetic civil war? Pete, what do you think?
I think you'll see slight improvements immediately if Trump wins. I think he'll executive order the border again. I think that mass migration for the southern states will come to an end. Kinetic, I just don't think that. I don't think we got it in us right now. I think, like what Chris says, we really got to be desperate. We've been pretty tolerant so far of what the left has been shoving down our throats, but to go that extra step and to go kinetic is things have to get really, really bad, and we're not quite there yet, my opinion.
Yeah. What about you, Sue? What do you think about
that? Before Trump wins, I'm hoping we make it to the election or to January 6th, because like I said last week, I think they have a backup plan for Trump to win. I don't think there's going to be a peaceful transfer of power. For example, the Fed is supposed to talk about lowering the interest rate next week. So I think we're going to see a little bit of a cushion up to the election and up till January. The interest rates might come down a couple times before then. The economy might get better. But if Kamala wins, I think she'll go right back to the 4-lane highway to socialism. If Trump wins, I can see them pulling out all the stops to either do a horrible transition of power or the establishment fight him on every move he tries to make, including executive order. So
yeah, I agree.
I don't see it getting better. I don't see it getting better anytime soon.
Yeah, I agree. Like Corey said, things are going to get a lot worse before they get worse. What do you think, Don?
Well, I think if she wins, obviously we all know that the continuation of those dreadful and terrible policies are going to just be the nail in our coffin. I think on the kinetic civil war part that a lot of people talk out their ass and they don't even, and we know a lot of people who are capable. And I mean, to actually have a, armed conflict and a civil war, I just don't see it, man. I mean, maybe isolated pockets here and there, but I just, like you said, I don't know if people are ready or have it in them. I mean, sure, the underlying spirit lives there. The, firearms are there and yada, yada, yada. But I think once people start seeing blood and death and things, it's going to be bad. So I just don't see a real civil war. They talk about it in movies and whatnot. I mean, I could be wrong. I certainly would stand up if the time is right and things were so bad. But I think that's a last resort for anyone because it's only going to weaken our country. It's a scary time. It's a very uncertain time. If you look at 2020 and how everything went down then, approaching this, I don't know if we put things in place to ensure that there's not the cheating, because there was cheating in the election. We all know there was. It's
being proven now. It's
Well,
all
if you
coming
look at
out.
that Dinesh D'Souza documentary, and they've tried
2,000
to
mules.
minimize that. I mean, on a court of law, circumstantial evidence, they'd probably get a conviction. I hope it doesn't come to armed conflict. I really do, because Americans killing Americans is never good. But we got to get out to the polls. Who knows? It's going to be a crazy time. If she wins, it's going to get much worse. There's going to be more wars break out. Good, bad, or indifferent, however you feel about Trump, I think he probably is in a position to pull us or level us off from this. I really do.
Yeah.
So,
one other thing, Chris, I want to go ahead. Sorry.
Go ahead, Pete. No, go ahead, Pete. Go ahead.
Jeff over on Kick he's got an interesting theory. He says if Kamala does win, he foresees a 3 or 4 state movement to succeed. So that's an interesting thing I haven't considered.
Yeah. Well, yeah, the balkanization is. So where I was gonna go is, I have a little bit of all of y'all's opinions. Like Sue, I hope we make it to the election. Okay.
Yeah.
Because when you look at the soft coup that just took place in the White House, where Biden was just set aside essentially, and Harris was anointed, that's scary to start with. In that, that's all they got to come up with is her. And so the left is in panic mode. I think they're willing to do anything to keep Trump from being elected. I think that we have only seen the tip of the iceberg of how far they're willing to go to prevent that. Because I'm fairly certain that their plans are for, once she wins, the handlers of whoever's putting her there have plans to turn us into something that none of us will recognize. Imagine, we had somebody at a press conference the other day, a journalist supposedly, stand up and ask if the federal government was going to do anything to stop Trump and Elon Musk from having a conversation. Let that sink in for a minute. That was supposedly a journalist asking that question. Is the federal government going to stop 2 Americans from having a conversation? Right. And the left wants that. They want that level of control. They have in the past praised China's social credit score system. They want that level of authoritarian control here. That's what they want. And I think if Harris gets elected, I think they're going to be pushing even harder for that, because they're going to see themselves as unstoppable at that point, and that they can do whatever they want to do. So I'm more afraid if he loses for what they're going to do, just policy wise and stuff. Especially if,
exactly,
God forbid, they have control of the House and the Senate again, which I don't think would happen. I mean, I'm certain that Trump's going to win the election, but they rigged the last one. I mean, we know they rigged it. It's supposedly wrong thing to say so, but I mean, with all of the facts that are coming out now in Georgia and Arizona and other places, that they were in fact. So Michigan too, video of the governor of Michigan driving up at 3 o'clock in the morning with 50,000 ballots or whatever it was and unloading them. I mean, it's they're going to do anything they can to stop this from happening.
Yeah, they're going to have to, because it's looking like he's going to win. I mean, even people that I know that have always teetered on the line in my regular life, or even leaning towards Trump, just because they go to the grocery store, they get gas, they look at their car insurance, they look at their rent, their mortgages, their 401k stream. I mean, it's the stuff
that these people will step out and say, and there's no repercussions for them. Crime is at its lowest point in 50 years in this country. That was reported today. Crime, the lowest it's been in 50 years. Inflation is 3.2%, they're claiming. 3.2, it's more like 30% real inflation. But we got to remember, how did they come up with these numbers? Well, they took everything that you need to buy every day to live out of the consumer price index, out of the CPI. So things like food, gasoline, energy, all the things that you need every day no longer count in inflation calculations. So of course they just keep taking the shit out that's getting expensive. I don't know what they're basing it off of anymore. I don't know what the hell's even left in the CPI. But they just keep rigging the numbers. Same thing with unemployment. You notice they'll come out, oh, unemployment's great. We're up this many jobs. Well, the following month, they're going to come out and revise that report down, and the media doesn't talk about it. They just give it on the day it's released. Oh, we're doing so great. Next month you look, oh, actually they revised it down, and it was actually disappointing news. Well, it was disappointing news when they did the numbers and they knew that, so they just we'll lie to the public for a few weeks and they'll forget about this and we'll move on. Because each time it's the numbers are great, but then it's always revised down. It's just like, remember, guys, it was like a month ago that Trump was shot, at that rally. And it's like memory hold. Like even Google called it, a Google search referred to it as a hypothetical act of political violence. It wasn't a hypothetical act. He got shot on live TV. It was recorded.
And they made fun of him for his bandage.
Yeah.
Yeah,
they made fun of him not wanting to walk around with a piece of ragged meat on the side of his head.
And Chris, talking about the crime numbers going down, it's easy for crime numbers to go down when you're not prosecuting the criminals, right?
Yeah.
And these judges aren't prosecuting the criminals.
Yes. That too, and there's been the push too to fudge the numbers even further, where they're arresting people and when they book them, just listing them as white, even if they're black or Hispanic or Asian or whatever, they just listed them as white so they can adjust the numbers. Which again, and they do it and they get away with it. No, nothing's done. They don't have to pay a price for this. They just get away with it. And FBI cooks the numbers too. Yes, Ron, they do.
Well, and I want to remind everybody that is worried about civil war. Civil war is not civil, all right? And we went through one 150 years ago. But before people talk about going kinetic and going to a civil war, I challenge people to come up with an actual target list, not groups of people, not Democrats or not liberals. Give me specific people who've caused this mess, and specific objectives. If you're going to go to war, it's like Sun Tzu says, before you go to war, start preparing for the peace. What are your objectives? Who are your targets? What would be the winning statement of that war? Before you just go out there and start shooting your neighbors and Americans, like Donnie said, Americans against Americans. We can eliminate a lot of people in this country, but what's it for? What is the objective? And I want people to realize that, again, like I said last week, just read the Constitution again. I think if everybody would just become a student and take a little bit of a basic civics class, hell, it's free on Hillsdale College. Read the Constitution again. All the answers are right there. It's just that it's been diluted over the last 50 years, and people don't understand. Both sides say, well, this is constitutional and this is unconstitutional. Well, unless you know what's in the Constitution, you don't know who's telling the truth. So just read the Constitution and calm down a little bit, And
absolutely
there's the objective is if you love this country and you believe in this country, it's not the most perfect form of government we've ever had, but it's pretty damn close. And the Constitution gives individuals and individual families and individual communities a right to exist and live the way they want to. So go back to that.
Yeah, and there's not as much gray area in the Constitution as people would like for you to believe. It's pretty freaking cut and dry.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yep.
I mean, if you look at the people we have here just on this podcast, we've got a Green Beret war hero. We've got 3 very highly trained, capable, well supplied, people who lean right for the most part. I wouldn't say any of us are political zealots, but we're the last people that want a civil war. We're the last people that want to hurt anybody. And I like to always hit that drum because it's true. I mean, people in our group, just because you're prepared for something doesn't mean you want to do it. And I would think a lot of people are like that in our world, awokened, not woke, but awokened people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and like what Sue was saying, when people talk of civil war, they get these ideas in their heads of what it's going to look like. I can tell you, I'm no expert, but I can just say that based on demographics, the size of this country, the number of guns in it, it's not going to look like any civil war you've ever seen before. And if it did break out, civil war did break out, I could see the balkanization happening pretty quickly. As far as the states breaking up, I could also see that happening if Harris gets reelected. I could see a potential for that because with as much chicanery that's coming out now about the last one, only took 4 years. Now they're letting all this information get away from them. For her to win, they're going to have to be over the top with it. I mean, there'll probably be 400 million people voting our election this time. You know what I mean? Like, it'll have to be that way. It'll have to be so obvious. It'll be, Soviet level meddling in the election, or even like in Venezuela, where 119% of the population voted. Got something like that. Because they're that desperate to get in. Because again, I think that they really think that once they get this election done, like someone mentioned in the comments, that if Harris got reelected, it'd probably be the last election, and that could be the case. Only because people start looking around and going, all right, this is lunacy at this point, and we've got to do something. And I can see that causing states to secede. Yeah,
the left says the same stuff. I mean, I've put a lot of thought into, man, what if there was a civil war, what it would look like. And, like you said, Chris, it's not going to look like people think it is. You're going to have isolated pockets, usually in the rural states, rural areas, of people fighting. Then you're going to see inner city people, gangs, groups, all take advantage of it and do payback on each other and create their own inner city wars, which won't be anything to do with the Civil War. So, I mean, it could erupt into this huge, ugly conflict, but it's not going to be like in the movies where, Wolverines are attacking a column of, artillery and stealing oranges and bread to survive. It's going to be nasty. It's going to be dirty. It's going to be painful. It's going to be heartbreaking. Families are going to be destroyed, but cities are going to burn if that happens. And it's not going to be the people that want a civil war. It's going to be the gang members and the people that are just buying their time. At least that's what I believe.
Cities are going to burn regardless because I got to imagine that some of the sleeper cells that are pre-positioned in this country, and there are a lot of them, will get their marching orders at some point and start doing the shit that they're sitting here.
Chicon in the country, Chinese nationals. I mean, it's a scary time. We've all been doing this for a long time, Chris, decades with us, and I'm sure Pete's the same way. And, Sue's lived it, for, a lifetime. There's always been crazy, scary times, but I think right now is, like you said last week, Chris, the quickening. And, if you don't know what that word means, it's a culmination of many things that take a long time. Then towards the end, they rapidly accelerate until they reach a crescendo. And I think that's what we're looking at right now. There might not be an election. Whoever wins, there's going to be, riots. There's going to be protests. And they're both staying on both sides. If Kamala Harris wins, there'll never be another election. If Trump wins, he's going to be a dictator. I don't know if that's true or not, but I know on Trump's side, I don't think it's true. I just don't think he's that guy, no matter how they try to paint it. But just batten down the hatches, make preparations. Don't go crazy. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep your family close. Keep in touch. Have a group of friends, not an organized militia, a group of friends that you break bread with, interact with, maybe train with, can have some contingency plans and lay low and see what happens and be nice until it's time not to be nice. Right? Like the old Dalton.
Absolutely.
Well, I agree with that, Donnie, but I disagree too. I want to remind people that, okay, I'm the Green Beret of the group. All right. And when I moved up here into the Smoky Mountains, my cousin's wife made the comment, "Oh, if anything ever goes bad, you'll be here to protect us." And I was like, "Are you talking about Civil War?" And she's like, "Yeah, if we ever go into a Civil War." And I said, "I'm already number one on the list. You and my family are the people I care about. This is my sanctuary. I will not be here. I will be the first person to leave here." All right, because the thing that scares me, whether it be Civil War or state-sponsored, war against one country against another. I know for a fact that I'm a trained guerrilla fighter. What I don't control is the air. All right, and I don't want my entire neighborhood, my entire cul-de-sac bombed out because I live there. Does that make sense?
Totally.
So I got to take the fight somewhere else. And the thing that really scares me is how fast they're pushing this AI, whether it be drone or unmanned flights or anything like that. That takes the human equation out of it. So whoever writes that AI, is the Constitution in that artificial intelligence, right? Like Pete said, the Constitution is pretty black and white, but we all saw during COVID, freedom of speech, unless it hurts somebody's feelings, and then somebody comes and stomp you out or cancel you. You know?
Freedom of speech, freedom of assembly. They weren't letting people go to church. They weren't letting people go to. It was ridiculous, and it was all under that guise of a national emergency, which ended up being bullshit.
Yeah. So we got to be very careful when people say, "Well, we'll just go to civil war. I got guns. I got pallets of ammo, and I got all kinds of guns." Yeah, but like Biden said, and he misquoted this. Hey, to hell with your AR-16. I got F-16s. Remember that quote a few years ago?
Yeah, F-15.
Certainly.
Come and take it. The internet exploded with stuff on that. You're absolutely right, Sue. And you are a trained guerrilla fighter, and several of my Green Beret friends, and we've talked about this, drinking bourbon around a campfire before. I mean, certainly, I'm just talking about average people, spread out. What are they going to do? I mean, certainly if it turns into that, there'll be heroes. There'll be people that organize, and you don't know who they were, but I just don't, I hope it doesn't come to that, because it's just going to weaken our country, or it could strengthen our country eventually. I just don't know. I mean, there's too many variables and too many uncertainties right now to really call it.
Yeah. Sorry, I caught a comment there. We'll close that on this because it's a little more lighthearted in my opinion. The monkeypox. You guys seeing this now? The monkeypox thing. The WHO, I think, just called it a global health threat. Even though, from what I understand, the only way you get it is from men having sex with each other. Not what I say; it's what they said. So I'm just wondering about that. Drones, drones will be the first thing they send. Very true. And guys, check out drones. Byron Russell he's got some seriously good information on drones. Highly recommend looking into him. The drone is a force multiplier for the guerrilla. As Sue said, he's a trained guerrilla fighter. I'm not as well trained as he is, but they've spent some time training me to do it too. And I will tell you, I mean, with hands down, the number one thing you can do as a force multiplier as a guerrilla fighter is a drone. It gives you eye in the sky. It gives you that surveillance capability that only state actors were accustomed to having for so long. Get a drone and start doing some educating. There's a lot of really cool 3D print files out there for accessories for your drones. Drones with thermal cameras on them, night vision cameras now, day-night cameras. Like, the drone world is exploding, which you also notice that it is. But notice too, Ukraine started kind of ramping up their use of drones, and sort of coincides with the time when our government decided you had to have a license to fly a drone, and that every drone had to be registered. Yeah. So just think about that. They saw what you could do with these things. I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, if you want to see what drone warfare really looks like, get yourself a Telegram account and go to like War Leaks or War Gonzo or any of those places. I mean, they're just chewing each other up over there with these drones. It's just, I mean, it's horrible.
Yeah, those are kinetic drones. What Chris is referring to is, sure. and he's right.
Observation.
Before you spend a whole bunch of money on drones, just remember 1 watt. 1 watt. I'm studying. I'm a former Kamala guy. I hate studying Kamala, but the drones have to do with the frequency range and bandwidth and stuff like that. So if you're going to get a drone, get one that uses less than 1 watt of power. Then you don't need any kind of license to fly it. Okay, it falls more towards the FCC than it does the FAA, because you're using too much bandwidth or too much power to talk to that drone with your remote station. So if you keep it under 1 watt, you can play with drones all you want, and that's about all you really need. You don't need to go 2 or 3 clicks out there. You just need to get a couple clicks around you and be able to bring it home. And check out Tactical Rifleman. Byron Russell has a couple classes on there of drone defense and using drones. They're expensive, but they're worth it. The tuition actually gets you a drone and teaches you how to use that kind of stuff. And Byron does a great job in doing it. He's got years of experience doing it.
Get yourself some 12-gauge shotguns with full chokes and 3-inch Magnum shells.
Get some boost loads. Yeah.
That's what they're issuing now to Russians and Ukrainians.
Yeah, well, and they've been doing a lot with EW. Russia just started fielding actually fiber guided drones. So it's guided fiber optic cable. How they're doing that from the drone, I don't know. Probably something like a Lancet style and not a copter style. Sue said you don't need to go far, and you don't. And as far as what they say about the wattage on your drone, I don't give a shit. I don't care what they say about it. If I need to use a drone for something, I'm going to use it for what I want. And I like the ones that can go 10, 15, 30 kilometers away. Now, that requires special antennas and stuff, but that ability to get eyes on something or any of the other myriad of uses that you can do with these drones is pretty powerful. Being able to have real-time surveillance of something that's going down. And again, you can deploy other things with these drones, and I don't mean weapons. I mean, imagine, listening devices, all sorts of things. There's a lot of creative stuff you can do with a drone. So I would really recommend looking into getting yourselves one.
Chris, did I tell you last time I was teaching a class out at TIFF's with Pierce? He brought his drone out and he was going to fly it and get some footage, but you know how close we were to the skydive city
drop zone.
Drone wouldn't fly because it was too close to the airport built into it. Think about that.
Yeah, you can fix that though.
Well, I'm sure
there's fixes for that. You can put different firmware in it, it'll get rid of all that shit. And but that's what I'm talking about. And so there's also devices out there, and I'm bringing this up for a reason. I mentioned drones. So there's also devices out there, little device you can buy that will alert you if there's a drone in the area. It will actually tell you, and there's some that can tell you what kind of drone it is. So you can know, is this a DJI? Is this a Lancet? In the case of Ukraine, this is a Lancet. It lets you know kind of what you're looking at. But even just knowing there's a drone operating in the area is a pretty nice piece of kit to have if you're out, trying to avoid observation. Let's just leave it from that.
What a great idea, Chris. You just came up with a great subject for one of our podcasts. We need to do a podcast on teaching our listeners about drones.
Yep.
Yeah, we can do that. Subject. We'll have Byron on, and we'll do another one with him, because post it up on the page. Post what? Richie. But we'll do one, about both the offensive and defensive sides. So, what you can use a drone for, and then how to protect yourself from. And there's a few ways. You can use jamming. You can use, physical countermeasures like a 12-gauge, plus things like having this little device on you that warn you and let you know there's a drone nearby. And yet drones are noisy, but at altitude, you get them up a little high and you won't hear them, so I'm a big drone proponent. I've got a couple and I'm looking to get more. I want one of the thermal camera is what I want next. So, well, y'all, thanks for being here tonight. Pete, what you want to close out with?
Go get trained, guys. We can talk about civil wars all day long. We can talk about prepping all day long, but at the end of the day, Go get trained. I don't want to know how many bullets you have, how much money you spent on your AR-15. Doesn't mean anything to me if you don't know how to use it. So find an instructor. Tactical riflemen, great instructors. So look them up, but get trained.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree with that more. Sue, what about you? You're still sitting there in the dark, you know?
I just want to remind people, they being the media right now, the media we don't like, the CNN and all that kind of stuff. They want everybody to panic. Just don't panic. I think if this is the time to come together with your family, your neighbors, your loved ones, and just kind of remind each other that no matter what comes our way in the next few months, few weeks, few months, that we're going to stick together and we're going to get through it. And just don't panic about it, you know. And we'll just take it as it comes. All right. And again, read the Constitution. The answers are right there for you. Our forefathers thought this out very well, and I don't think they're going to get rid of us anytime soon.
Agreed. What about you, Donnie? What do you got, man?
I think everybody needs to live their life. I pay attention to what's going on. Do not let it consume you. Do not let it infuriate you. Spend time with your families. Break bread. Keep your health good, and you know who you are. If your health is bad, I just had a little health scare. I'm on the mend, doing great. Stay strong, and like Pete said, train in some capacity, and don't just collect stuff, because stuff doesn't matter. You'll stand around and look at it in a crisis. And plus the fellowship and camaraderie and friendships that you build through training. If you've never done it, I can't even begin to tell you how many people that you will meet, and just like-minded people, and have a new set of friends, friends that you can count on. Let's just all ride it together. Let's keep talking about it. Let's look between the lines. Certainly Chris and his entourage, our circle, between all of us, we have a lot of connections in a lot of places. So if there's something that's pertinent, we think you need to know about, we'll let you know. I know Chris has known things before they happen a few times, and that's powerful stuff. But my biggest advice, just kind of go with the flow, keep preparing, train, but love your family and live your life. I mean, that's what you need to keep doing. And good times will come, good times will go, bad times will come, but they always go as well.
Yeah, that's perfect, Don. Yeah, don't be black-pilled, guys. The end is not nigh. The world's not ending, nothing like that yet. But be aware. Be very aware of what's going on and understand where the opposition is in their heads, which is kind of hard to do, I know, but because they're insane. But just understand that. Watch the language they're using and the things that they say and do, because that's important. It's going to give you an idea of where they're going. But like we've always said, live for today, but prepare for tomorrow. So live life like everybody else here said too. Keep building the relationships and the networks and things, and enjoy time with your family, because someday, you might need those fond memories to look back on for a little bit of strength in you, during a hard time. Remember, it wasn't
just
always
like in your first book, Chris. Morgan held on to that thought of his family and a little bit of communication that he had. Exactly. That kind of drove him. That was the underlying theme of that. He could have easily, shacked up with another group or Jess or whatever, but he was hyper focused on it. And that's super important. There's been times in my life where I've let this kind of consume me, where I was sure the world was going to. I think we all of us that have been in this game a long time, it comes and it ebb and flows. But once you reach a certain level of preparedness, you can eat, you can purify water, you can secure your immediate area, you can defend your life. I mean, there's certain things that you need to have. And me, I'm always going to hype on food, because that's the hardest to get resource in any crisis. Have a couple places to go and really have fellowship, have people in your life, in your circle, that think like you do, that you can count on, because survival is a team sport.
Yeah, I agree 100%, Donnie.
Good job, Donnie.
100%. So Chris is having a couple issues, looks like, over there. But while he's doing that,
my connection was going in and out right there. Sorry, y'all. Go ahead and say what you had, Pete.
well, I was going to just give a shameless plug if you didn't mind.
Yeah, that's what you're here for, of course. I wasn't going to leave before we did that.
Well, we're talking about, there's a lot of chatter in the comments about communication. Tomorrow night, we also have a podcast on kick.com/Pete_Robert Tucci. And if you're a subscriber to our little platform over there, we're actually going to be doing a giveaway tomorrow. So get over there. Come see us for your Thursday night. That's it. That's all I got.
All right. And, guys, we were talking about training earlier. Pete's a damn good instructor, too, right here in the good old state of Florida. So you guys, eyes up, head on a swivel kind of thing. Pay attention, but don't be black-pilled. Keep living. And, we're watching this shit, and we'll talk about it when it comes around. Other than that, you guys know the drill. Be good at it. We'll catch you next time.